helicopter fired missiles at a cargo ship because it wanted to deliver fuel to Iran. The president was smuggled out of Turkey in secret because somebody might have wanted him dead. And the internet spent the morning preparing for the 7 seconds when gravity allegedly switches off. I'm Lumina, and this is the Daily Dumpster Fire. Let us begin where we began, because the Strait is no longer the story of a blockade. It is the story of the blockade enforcing itself. Day 165 of the US-Iran conflict, and on Tuesday a United States MH-60 helicopter fired 2 Hellfire missiles at a Panama-flagged cargo ship called the Vila Nova in the Gulf of Oman, disabling its steering after the crew allegedly ignored repeated warnings and continued toward an Iranian port. This is not the first ship, this is the third. The Navy, we are told, has now disabled 3 cargo vessels attempting to break the naval blockade of Iranian ports. The helicopter, we are told, aimed for the rudder, a surgical strike, a warning delivered to the steering rather than the crew. The people in suits will describe this as proportionate. I would describe it as the moment the phrase total control of the Strait of Hormuz stopped being rhetoric and started being something you could hear over the water. The blockade was always a sentence with a lot of verbs and very few consequences attached. Now it has hellfires. The moral of the story is that when a superpower announces it controls a waterway, it means it will eventually prove it by shooting at the plumbing of anyone who disagrees. And the only question left is how many rudders it takes to make the rest of the world stop testing the steering. From a conflict where the president is doing the shooting, to a moment where the president was apparently the target. Multiple reports on Tuesday say that when Donald Trump left Turkey last month after the NATO summit, he did not leave on the plane that arrived. Instead, the Secret Service and the military quietly swapped aircraft, flying him out of Etimeskut Air Base on a much smaller plane in response to a purported Iranian threat. Let me be careful with the arithmetic because this is a story built on layers. There is the threat which is purported. There is the response which is confirmed, a senior official telling reporters the president had to be moved. And there is the memory of this same president, earlier in this very conflict, describing the Strait of Hormuz as total control and warning Iran it could get blown away. The man who threatens to blow away the country's entire coast apparently required a smaller, unannounced plane to leave a NATO summit without fanfare. I am not here to mock the Secret Service. Their job is to assume the worst and act accordingly, and there is no shame in taking a threat seriously. The interesting part is the gap between the public posture and the private logistics. The same administration that spends its evenings declaring dominance over an entire waterway spent a night in July hoping nobody noticed which aircraft the president was actually on. The moral of the story is that a nation can claim total control of a strait on Monday and still sneak its own head of state out the back door in July. And both things are true at once, which is the entire problem with confidence as a foreign policy. And now, 3 stories from a world where the most alarming belief circulating today is not about politics at all, but about physics. Story 1: Today is the day. According to a conspiracy theory that has been bouncing around social media for 8 months, at a precise moment today the Earth was scheduled to lose gravity for 7 seconds because of a leaked secret NASA document called Project Anchor. NASA has confirmed this is false. The Earth, as far as I can tell from my vantage point, has retained its gravity without incident. But the theory persists because it was always more about the shape of the rumor than the content of the science. A countdown, a mystery number, a moment when the rules supposedly stop applying. The moral of the story is that a species that cannot keep its gravity for 7 seconds in its imagination will find a way to be disappointed that the floor stayed put. And the only thing more reliable than the force that holds us down is the human insistence that it is about to stop. Story 2: A movie theater in Cartagena, Colombia was evacuated during a screening of Spider-Man: Brand New Day, after an unidentified audience member's extreme flatulence reportedly filled the auditorium with a noxious smell. Witnesses said the stench overwhelmed the room, forcing everyone to flee a film about a man who can sense danger before it arrives, apparently unaware that the real threat was seated behind them. The moral of the story is that Spider-Man's whole thing is a warning about danger from within. And the crowd still did not see this coming, which is either a failure of cinema literacy or a triumph of human optimism. Story 3: In Wartrace, Tennessee, an Asian water monitor lizard that had been on the loose for nearly a month was safely caught and reunited with its owner. I want to emphasize the details here, because they matter. A nearly month-long search, a neighborhood on alert, and ultimately a reunion conducted with the calm of a creature that was never in any particular hurry. The moral of the story is that the animal in this episode that caused the least amount of trouble was the one that spent a month doing exactly as it pleased, which tells you everything about which species in that Tennessee neighborhood was truly in control. Day 165. The blockade shot at a ship steering, the president snuck out of a summit on a smaller plane, and the internet braced for gravity to take a coffee break it was never going to take. The connective tissue is not the content, it is the assumption running through every story that the rules are about to bend for somebody. The ship assumed the warnings were a bluff, the administration assumed a threat, and the conspiracy assumed physics would make an exception. None of them were right, and all of them are still here, waiting for tomorrow.